Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sask Sports Show on ASTV, brought to you by Southwest Terminal. My name is JayD Haughton, and I'm back this week with another jam-packed episode. On tonight's episode, I'm switching sports and going onto the pitch this week to talk about soccer. Joining me tonight is Dan Kelly, programs coordinator for Saskatoon Youth Soccer. Tonight, Dan and I will be breaking down Saskatoon Youth Soccer as a whole and learning more about it, the age range, different leagues, clubs that are a part of Saskatoon Youth Soccer, and some of the alumni that have went through the association that have gone on to have pro soccer careers. And to finish off the show, we will be chatting about the effect COVID had last year, possible new academy starting up, and plans for this season. So stay tuned for all this and more on the Sask Sports Show on ASTV. And there's the man of the hour, Dan Kelly. Thanks for joining me tonight on the show.
Thanks again for having me, JayD. It's an honor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And how goes the battle tonight?
Oh, yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's been a long day at work. We're trying to gear up for outdoor soccer. So, yeah, it's been good though.
Well, and kind of like I said in the intro to the show, you are the programs coordinator, and kind of tell me what's involved in your job as the programs coordinator.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Saskatoon Youth Soccer as a whole, it's a not for profit. So when you're involved in any sort of position within, you're kind of I would say a multitasker. So a lot of what I do, at least for the indoor and outdoor seasons, is very much a lot of the base work to get the leagues up and running. I do a lot of the scheduling. We do it as a team, but a lot of that is on my plate. And even for the outdoor and indoor seasons, securing fields, stuff to that nature. We've got a couple other programs that we do run in terms of a dream league in the indoor season, which is where we go into the some inner city schools in Saskatoon, part of the Dream Brokers program, and offer some soccer for, I would say, from October until February, March. With those schools as well. And then in the summer, we offer our Kids in the Park program, which is a free drop-in program where we try and hit up, I think it's something like 48 parks in the summer, right? So it's busy. So there's a lot that goes into that. And then on top of it too, we have a Parent and Taught program, which is, very young kids, ages 2 to 4, learning some physical literacy and introductions to the ball and to the sport in general, right? So, yeah, it's kind of a kaleidoscope of things.
Well, it seems like you're a busy man, and with these different programs, like you said, you went to different schools, and then you have where like you said, a bunch of parks as well that you drop in soccer. Is this all kind of a way for young kids to get into soccer at a younger age, and to obviously teach them the game and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, that's one aspect of it. I mean, a lot of it is exposure of the sport. Soccer in Canada and in Saskatchewan in particular isn't the primary sport for a lot of people. So there's an exposure element to it too. But I mean, with these programs and all programs that we do, inclusivity is a huge aspect of what we try and achieve. So just including as many people as we can in our programming.
Well, and like I said at the beginning, we're talking about exposure of bringing the sport a little bit of light in Saskatchewan. I mentioned that there is a new a new academy possibly starting this fall, and kind of just explain what that's all about.
Yeah, sure. So this is a very new project that we've been working on. So there's still a lot of details that need to be worked out on our end, but we've got a good base foundation. And so where this stemmed from is, with every good organization, you kind of look internally and say, what are our strong points and what are our weak points, and how do we improve year over year, week over week, and day over day. So we had a big audit, I guess, or an internal audit, and we looked and said, okay, there's some parts that we might not be as strong as we'd like. And one of them was, an access to a high performance, I guess, stream, right? We always had the Premier League, but I think there was a need or a want for something above that. And so we have 5 clubs in the city and 5 really talented and decorated technical directors. And so this was kind of a coming together of sorts of all of those folks and us in the office and our boards and really coming together and saying, okay, well, how do we improve? And so one aspect that we said was, well, let's bring a high performance stream in-house to complement what we've been offering in the league. And so that's where the brainchild sort of started, and we're looking to launch fully in the fall. And a lot of this has to do with putting out competitive teams. Not that there weren't any, because again, we have really talented players in Saskatoon, really talented coaches and technical directors. But we were saying that this would be a citywide sort of coming together and putting teams out to enter into the provincial soccer league, and then ultimately heading to nationals, the club nationals, and putting in a good performance there.
Well, and also kind of, I just kind of wanted to ask if, could this academy, at some point be a traveling team to kind of go against different provinces, club teams as well that have the same sort of program that you guys are looking into?
Yeah, very much so. A lot of what we're doing is trying to make this academy so that people have access to certain elements outside of Saskatoon, outside of Saskatchewan, and having travel opportunities and stuff of that nature, especially when you get up into looking towards providing university or college or semi-pro or pro opportunities, right? They're going to need the exposure that way. So yeah, it's very much on the docket for sure.
Well, that's something very exciting for, the not just the talented soccer players in Saskatchewan, but a lot of the younger kids that can strive for that excellence to be a part of that academy, and to create some buzz for soccer in Saskatchewan and in Saskatoon itself. Just because, like you said, soccer, I feel that hockey or football might maybe take more precedence than soccer does. So it's nice to see that Saskatoon Youth Soccer is trying to make that stride into becoming maybe more competitive.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of the way amateur sports are going these days, is there's a bit more of a professionalization of the sports now. It becomes a fine line because you don't want to take the fun out of the game, and you don't want to discourage kids too. So that's that's another element that we've built into our structure, or even when we were looking at strengths, weaknesses, that sort of thing, right? Is how do we give a place for everyone to play, and having fun as the core element there was key for sure.
Well, it's very exciting for anybody that's looking for that next step in their soccer career. Sorry, my apologies. So kind of moving on a little bit, we've kind of dived into, you've explained that there is five different clubs that are a part of the Saskatoon Youth Soccer. Kind of just tell me a little bit about each club, where they're located within the city.
Sure.
And if there is any maybe stronger clubs than others, maybe some are a little bit more of a powerhouse.
Right. I mean, the latter is a really good question, and I don't want to put anyone off, but I'll start by talking about the clubs that we do have. So probably the oldest club in the city is Saskatoon United Soccer Club, which is mainly located on the west side of the city, and headed by a technical director there named Hugh Morris. Then in the north part of the city, we have Hollandia, which is again headed by a very talented technical director, and Percy Hoff. And then to the south, we have I would say more southwest and south is East Side Soccer Association, East Side Youth Soccer Association. Again, a very talented technical director, young guy by the name of Mike Gramiak. And then next to that club, which is southeast, is Lakewood Soccer Association. Again, technical director, really talented guy, Luis Otaruello. And then to the very east is Aurora Soccer Club, and the technical director, another talented individual, is a guy named Sean. So. Yeah, it's and as far as if anyone one of them dominates or not, I think it's pretty even across the board. Some may dominate in certain player pools and whatnot, right? But again, there's strong leadership and strong technical leadership that it's a really even league that we have, and a really talented pool of players. So I think people are getting a lot of good education, whether it be the players, the coaches, right? Things are just the game's being up to a great level in Saskatoon.
Well, it's awesome that there are, they are split up into 5 clubs. So there's a lot of competitiveness between the clubs, spaced out within the city. So
yeah, it's I mean, it's good too, right? Like everything's sort of zoned. So I think that's where you get some of that evenness to it, right? You can't really stack a team. You can see some generational elements to it, where there's a generation of kids in maybe one zone that are just they've come together and clicked, and it's they have the edge. But yeah, you kind of see that across all 5 zones, which is fantastic.
Well, that's great to hear. And on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break here on the Sask Sports Show. This is everybody's favorite part of the show. It's commercial time. So, this is how us at ASTV get paid. So we got to play some commercials. But when we come back, we're just going to dive in more about Saskatoon Youth Soccer and talk about the length of the season, the age, kind of the age range of the league, and also, tournaments and more programs as well. So stay tuned.
Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
And we're back here on the Sask Sports Show with my guest of honor, Dan Kelly. And before we went to commercial break, we kind of just dove in a little bit about the league, talking about this new academy that was coming up, which is very exciting, talking about the clubs. And now to kind of learn more about Saskatoon Youth Soccer as it is youth soccer, you know, what is the age range of players from that are, you know, how far can you go with your age within the association?
Yeah.
What's the length of the season look like? You know, kind of that kind of stuff.
Sure. So I think I touched on it a bit before, just with our parent and top programming. So you can start as young as 2, and get, I think we run about 4 to 6 weeks of a parent and top program. So that's age ranges 2 to 4. And again, it's physical literacy, introduction to the ball, really kind of just giving kids a place to come out and play as well, right at that young age. And then we run from there up until about, under 19. So up to about 19 years of age, right? So you can spend your entire youth career really with Saskatoon Youth Soccer, right, and the clubs within it. And I should say that it's not just made up of clubs, but a lot of community associations. We have 2 streams that we offer. So with the community streams, they start with their version of parent and taught, which is kinder soccer, and then they move up. We start to join them again at U5, and they go to about U9. And then on the zone side or the club side, they have what's called U7 and U9 development leagues. So it's something where kids can play. You know, if soccer is their primary sport, they can get a little bit of extra playtime, practices, and stuff like that too, right? But it all comes together kind of in a melting pot or a feeder system at U11 into the club system, and then it goes right up until the U19. So we offer divisions all the way up. Yeah.
And you know, for a regular season, let's start with outdoor soccer.
Okay.
I don't know what's the length of the season that goes, you know, from and to, and then as well as, you know, how many games are they playing? Do a lot of these clubs go to tournaments, training camps, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's funny because you know, living in Saskatchewan, we take our summers not for granted, and so we in the outdoor we run what's called the spring season, but it runs from the beginning of May or late part of April, I guess, until the end of June. And then it's we very much see cabin season, right, or camping season here. So we try not to take away, but what that comes down to is a 10-week season of the local league. I think I mentioned PSL, which is the Provincial Soccer League, and that runs a little bit longer into July. But our league is very much 10 weeks in the summer or in the spring, and I mean, I think about 9 out of 10 of those weekends have local tournaments that people can play in. So yeah, it's very much like an indoor season. All the same work that goes into the indoor season and everything gets put into the outdoor season. It's just condensed into 10 weeks. So it's busy. So you get about, depending on the age group, you get anywhere from 8 to 10 games in that season.
Well, and then, like you said, a lot of tournaments on top of that. So it's a busy 10 weeks for sure.
Yeah, and I mean the games are longer too, right? Like you see a lot of, at least at the older age groups, you see a lot of hour and a half, 45-minute halves, right? So as opposed to the indoor game where you would get the 30-minute halves. So yeah, it's quite busy.
Well, and you know, we touched on the tournaments, and when, you know, the season's over, or I'm not sure if during the season, what kind of training camps or, you know, skill development camps are offered for kids that, you know, in the summertime maybe aren't, like you said, going camping or going to the cabin, and soccer is their primary sport, and they want to develop their skills. Kind of what is offered for those kind of soccer players?
Yeah, so I think that's very much kept in the club itself. In that, sorry, I think that was one of my kids. Yeah, it's kept very much in the club itself. So to have, you know, one of like Eastside, Aurora, they would maybe take on and offer some summer camps after the full regular season's done. I know there's been some partnerships with some bigger clubs. You know, the Barcelona Academy used to come through Saskatoon, and sadly that program's come to an end, I think, with COVID and all that sort of stuff. I don't think we'll see that again. But then there's other, you know, Rangers, Celtics, some partnerships in that route. But I think people really value their summertime after. So I know we've tried a couple iterations of offering summer programming. The Kids in the Park runs from after we're done the season, so July, August. So, you know, if kids are in the city and looking for something to do, they can drop in. Although the last couple years we have done registration just because of COVID protocols, pardon me. And then very much there's an element that we're looking at too, in terms of maybe a 3v3 league, or, you know, beach soccer or something, you know, just to keep the kids and people who are interested still playing. Yeah.
Well, it's great to see that there is more opportunities for kids once the season is over. And, you know, like we've talked about, for kids that soccer is their primary sport, you know, moving into indoor soccer, I would imagine that happens over the winter time. And like you said, it's a longer season, because obviously winters, I feel, are longer than the summer we get in Saskatchewan. So just kind of briefly explain, you know, what goes into an indoor soccer season, and also, you know, to touch on the facilities that have indoor and outdoor soccer fields for these kids to play on as well within Saskatoon.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll touch on the facilities first, and then move into the indoor. But so within the outdoor spaces that we use, we very much try to use city fields within each sort of zone or community association, to kind of get home fields and build that up, right? So it's kind of it's scattered across the city throughout the summer. And then in Saskatoon, we, at least with our association, we've got two buildings that we use. One being the Saskatoon Sports Center, located on Nelson Road, and then the Hank Rise Soccer Facility, which is up in the north end there on Primrose Drive. And each have outdoor fields attached on the outside, but they also, in the Saskatoon Sports Center, it's mainly a turf center. So we've got one giant field that in the indoor season can get split into two half fields or 4 quarter fields, and then quarter field, a turf quarter field off to the left if you're looking north, and then a tile field to the right if you're looking north. And then up in the north end at Hank Rise, it's all tile, and that's where you would play your indoor boarded games. Yeah, and so we tend to see more of the younger age groups play at the Hank Rise to start with, just in terms of a development thing. You know, the ball's kept on the field a lot longer with the boards in play and stuff like that, so it really gets the touch for the kids there. And yeah, but they're two really, really world-class facilities, right? I know Saskatoon hosted the men's club nationals a couple years ago, I think 3 years ago now, and we had like Canadian Soccer Association members coming through and touring it and just, in awe of it and saying, this is one of the best facilities in the country. So I think we're really, really lucky to have those for sure.
Well, and it's exciting too, to have like Saskatoon, I feel, is built for all sports, with these facilities that you have mentioned for soccer, and then obviously that Gordie House sports complex that currently holds going yard baseball and it, all the baseball diamonds and just the, the training facility that's in there. And then obviously you got, hockey rinks, wide selection of hockey rinks. And so, it's great to see that Saskatoon can hold any sports tournament with ease from the sounds of it, obviously including soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's maybe a good segue into kind of what the indoor season looks like too, which is it's a 20-week active season, right? But that's spread across from October, and then it goes right until March. Usually the early part of March. This year we've extended to the latter part of March just because of some of the stuff that COVID's thrown our way. But in that time, again, there's an extensive amount of tournaments, at least for soccer, that we can see. But I think almost each of the zones offering their own tournament. We offer 2 Premier League, a girls and a boys tournament, and a couple of tournaments for the younger kids as well. So it's busy. It's busy as well.
Well, and like you said, playing on turf or tile, what is there any difference to the way the game is played by the different ground that they play on?
Yeah. Well, the shoes is one thing, and if you're an old guy like me, then I mean it's the knees that see the difference, right? But yeah, the games can be very different. I mean, within the turf, you have very delineated lines where you have your touch lines and your sidelines, where if the ball goes out, then it's free kicks or throw-ins or something like that. It's more what the outdoor game would look like, just played on a smaller surface. Whereas when you're playing boarded, at least at an adult level, I would say we offer it at U11 too. So at that level, it's you're wearing flat shoes, the ball's in play constantly, right? Because the boards are live. So there's a lot of running and a lot of, I would say, similarities between hockey in terms of how you'd line up, what you would do for lines and substitutions. It's rolling subs. And then, there's also an element of futsal in it, although I would say futsal, they use boundary lines as well, right? But a lot of similarities in the game there too.
Well, and I imagine, playing on turf or tile, you do a sliding tackle, it might hurt a little bit more than if you did it on grass.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten a few raspberries in my day. So,
well, kind of on that note, before we go into the next section of the interview, which is kind of talking about the alumni that's gone through Saskatoon Youth Soccer, we're going to take a quick commercial break because, like I said before, that's how us at ASTV get paid. And it's, everyone's favorite time. It's commercial time. So before we get into that segment, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the alumni that have gone through Saskatoon Youth Soccer. So stay tuned. And we're back here on the Sask Sports Show with Dan Kelly, the programs coordinator with Saskatoon Youth Soccer. And like I said before, we break for commercial. just kind of off the top of your head, I know you and I talked about this yesterday when we had our little phone chat. What's like I said, off the top of your head, what kind of alumni or people that have gone on to play pro careers have gone through Saskatoon Youth Soccer that that comes to your mind?
Yeah, so there's a couple that have local celebrity, but also celebrity throughout Canada too, and one of those is Kaylin Kyle, who I think played her youth club career at Hollandia Soccer, and I don't think she needs much of an introduction, but she's one of the bronze medalists from the Canadian Olympic team. So she's had a few national team call-ups, and she's been back and graces us with her presence every now and then when she's free to do so, and it's very much appreciated, because I know that a lot of aspiring female athletes look to her and even the career that she's had beyond soccer. So she's definitely one that off the top of my head I can think of. And then another is a gentleman by the name of Brett Levi, who I think came up playing his his youth career with the SUSC club, and then ended up playing with the Huskies here, and I think was a part of the successful team through there. And then from there, I think he was scouted by the Vancouver Whitecaps and had a few first team appearances for them. And now he's moved to Winnipeg Valor in the Canadian Premier League. So those two right off the bat are ones that I can think of. I know there's been others who've had their had stints or had some I guess some of their careers in Saskatoon, and one notably right now is another gentleman by the name of Thomas Halsall, who's a keeper or Hassall, I think, is a keeper for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And when they kind of had their tournament when the MLS came back, I think the first team goalie got injured, so he stepped in and covered very well and had a few good games. So yeah, lots of local talent in Saskatoon. Like I said, I know I'm probably missing a ton who've gone off to either do some trials or even had some professional stints at clubs elsewhere. So,
well, let's just talk about Kaylin Kyle, for instance, and just her. Like you said, she won a bronze medal at the Olympics, and played her youth soccer here, and just having her come from Saskatoon Youth Soccer. Do you think that that's created, and this is including all those those two other people that you mentioned, created more of an interest with youth to play soccer, that to have that dream to be like Kaylin or Brett, to play professional soccer one day?
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, with both Kaylin and Brett, there's a lot of components and a lot of people, not just Saskatoon Youth Soccer that played a role in making them the players that they are. I know that they played high school soccer and even had some other coaches in other aspects as well, whether it be university and whatnot. But I definitely think those two are good role models for the kids that were coming up, for sure, and still are, right? It's always, I think it's always good to have those strong role models for kids and show them that it is, that line of sight is there, that they can make it. This is definitely achievable, right?
Well, and just to bring more spotlight to soccer in Saskatchewan, like you and I talked about, tonight, about, soccer kind of takes a backseat to other sports, prominent sports that are, that are very popular in the province. Hockey probably being the number one. Same with football, lacrosse, even, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but just to have those celebrities that kids can look up to, and like you said, they had, the whole city of Saskatoon and their coaches and whatnot had a little piece in making those professional soccer players the people that they are and the players that they are. But it is very exciting that they did come from Saskatoon.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I mean, I think what you're saying with the other sports is a huge point, is that, they're very much present in Saskatchewan, in the cities and stuff like that, right? And that's something that we don't have right now. So every time that we do, that we can highlight, a Saskatoon soccer player that's made it is huge to the sport. And or even just a Saskatchewan soccer player, it's huge to the sport. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that kind of leads me into my next segment about, putting Saskatoon soccer on a map with the possibility of a Canadian Premier League soccer team coming to Saskatoon here after a private investor bought correct me if I'm wrong, trying to pronounce, is it Marquis Down?
Marquis Down, yeah.
Marquis Down. Yeah, so that the racetrack here in Saskatoon. And, what are your thoughts about the possibility of a professional soccer team coming to the city?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's great. Having been a soccer player and a soccer fan for all of my life, there was nothing for us, that was here and now. It was, I think, when you and I talked yesterday, I mean, I think I had my head in the clouds when I was younger and thought I was going to be, a professional player with Manchester United, right? Which is a great dream. But I mean, when you have something tangible in the city, and you can create sort of a grassroots, I guess, fan base there, and it'll help grow the sport. And not that there aren't other organizations that are doing that. I mean, the Huskies play every season, right? Every season in Saskatoon. I know the Cougars the same in Regina. So there's a lot of access to it. But I mean, in terms of professional games, like, I mean, when I was growing up, I lived in Regina, and the only game that I got to see, I think, was a friendly between Canada and Brazil before, I think, the '94 World Cup. So I'm kind of aging myself there, but yeah. And then everything with that was what was on Soccer Saturdays on TSN with Graham Leggett, right? So having access and tangible access in the city is going to be huge for the sport. It's going to give kids that line of sight that they need, and it gives them another opportunity to kind of grow with the game if the university pathway isn't for them. So,
well, and that's a good, and that's, oh, sorry.
No, that's it.
Oh, and like that's a very good point. And now, this is all speculation at this point too. But to have that professional team in Saskatoon, now you have an opportunity to maybe have more grassroots Saskatchewan soccer players go through the professional ranks, with having a team in Saskatchewan and, getting more hometown kids. It's no different than the Blades or the Rush or any of these, or even in the, in the SJHL, having those hometown Saskatoon or surrounding area kids is what's going to bring fans to the stands, as well as, just the excitement around it, which I think is great.
Very, very much so. And I mean, when we had I think this investor group tried to do, or didn't try, they put on, the Saskatchewan Soccer Summer Series, right? Where they brought a lot of players in from around the province, a lot of Saskatoon players, and they had some players come in from out of province too. But I think, yeah, definitely, when these guys and when you can see them, or ladies too, at the university level, it really, these are heroes to kids. they're growing up, right? And especially to say, you know, this person grew up in Saskatoon, I can do this too, right? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So it's definitely exciting.
And you know, like all the other major teams, like the Rush and the Blades, I keep referring them because they're a professional sports team. But you know, having a professional soccer team, and with these teams reaching out, doing community work, like, you know, reading at a reading books at a school, or playing floor hockey with some kids, or, you know, grouped with the Saskatchewan Lacrosse Association to put on camps and have webinars and whatnot. What are the possibilities for not even just the Saskatoon Youth Soccer, but also the Saskatchewan Soccer Association to maybe team up with this team to create that same sort of community awareness for, you know, the up and coming youth to get into the game, and kids that are in the game, and all that, you know, all that jazz?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't really speak to Saskatchewan soccer, but I mean, I think it's very much the same as us, is to get them, aspiring kids at every corner of the province to you know, make it and have soccer as an option, or a professional option for people. And I was on the YouTube live video that the Weed Pool fan supporters put on, and Al Simpson is very much, I think, a big proponent of that community engagement, building that grassroots following, and having a team for the people, you know, kind of very, very Saskatchewan, a very Saskatchewan approach, like we see with, you know, the Riders and stuff like that too. So I think the possibilities are endless. And again, just that exposure in the community, I think, will be a big draw to the sport, which is awesome.
Yeah, and like we talked about tonight, put Saskatchewan on the map with adding another professional sports team, with having the Rush and the Riders, and having 5 WHL teams, and then the whole Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League as well. But
totally.
You know, that's it's going to be very exciting for the sport, and for I would imagine Sask Sport itself.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think any sort of project that comes our way with the amount of athletes and talented athletes that we have in the province, and you know, the provincial population number is growing, I think it's just going to add to it, and we're seeing a lot of new Canadians whose primary sport, you know, when they were playing or you know, watching back in their home countries, or I guess now that this Canada's their home country, but it was all soccer, right? So I think there's going to be a large movement, and I'm very excited for the possibilities for the sport. I'm very excited for the possibilities within our own organization, and yeah, it's I mean, once COVID leaves or whatnot, I'm very, very optimistic for the future of the sport in Saskatchewan.
Well, on that note, talking about the possibility of having a Canadian Premier League soccer team, we're gonna take another short break here on the Sask Sports Show. When we come back, we're gonna dive into Dan's, you know, career as a soccer player, and talk about, you know, what got him into being a part of Saskatoon Youth Soccer, and a little bit more about him as a person and as a soccer player as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a career in the salon industry? Check out Aveda Institute Winnipeg in the Exchange. What sets us apart is our student mentorship program, 95% placement rate after graduation, real-world salon experience, and network of 7,000 salons and spas. You will learn creative cut and coloring, latest trends and techniques, social media marketing, fashion shows, photo shoots, and more. Now accepting applications for 2018, so check us out and book your tour today. Aveda Institute Winnipeg. Hair school the way it should be.
And we're back here on the Sask Sports Show with my guest, Dan Kelly. And like I said, we're going to get to know Dan a little bit in this segment. So, Dan, I'm going to ask you this. You know what, if you had a dating profile kind of what would be your description that you'd put about yourself, talking about yourself, your soccer career, and what got you into being a part of Saskatoon Youth Soccer?
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's extensive. I think, and again, I'm aging myself here, but I've been a part of the game for almost 35 years now. So I started when I was really young. I think I'm a first generation Canadian. My dad's from Ireland. My mom is from the Bahamas, but her parents were English, so a lot of European influence there. And I think when it came to a sport or something that they were looking to get me into, I'm not sure my dad was too keen on having the 6 a.m. or even the 5 a.m. practices to take me to with hockey. So I think soccer was a good alternative, and he's a rugby fan too. But I think there's not much of a rugby league for 5-year-olds. So they put me into soccer, and I kind of took like a pig to mud in that, and I took to the game right away, enjoyed it, and started playing. I played in Regina for a long time, and then we ended up moving closer to family. So my mom's family, I think I mentioned she's from the Bahamas. They live in the Bahamas, so we moved there for high school. And I ended up playing. There's not a lot of youth sports there, or there wasn't. There is now. It's a great movement, and there's a lot of Canadian involvement there. I mean, it was very much high school soccer for youth, and then I was playing with an adult team, and was scouted for, I think, the under 20, under 23 national team at about 15 years old. So it's not a lot, but I have a couple of Bahamas caps, youth caps to my name. Which is anyways, I won't go too much further. I ended up moving back to Saskatchewan for university, just closer to friends. It was people that I knew from my childhood and stuff like that, so there was a comfort element there. And played soccer, and I still continue to play soccer, although again I'm getting up there. So the decision for me was at what point do I retire my own boots and then start coaching. So that came with a job opportunity that I had with Saskatoon Adult Soccer. They were looking for somebody in their office and as a referee assigner, and I said, you know what, this is maybe a good time to transition into something. I'd always, again, I mentioned that Manchester United was my career path, but as I got older, it was more so, how do I continue to work in the sport? And that opportunity came up. I applied, I got the position. And then within about a year or 2 years into that, there was a role that came up with Saskatoon Youth Soccer, and that kind of takes us to our present. I'm still coaching as well, which is awesome. So it's very involved in the game still, which is great.
Well, I have to ask you this, Dan. Do you like being in an office all day or out in the field coaching? And I feel like I know the answer to this, but I thought I'd ask you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very grateful for my job. I will say that. And we were, I'm going to throw a shout out to the Saskatoon Youth Soccer Organization and to my boss and the board, and they were able to keep us on throughout the pandemic, which is phenomenal. We weren't short of any work, which helped, but it's been a pleasure to work there. But if you're asking whether I'd enjoy sitting in front of a screen typing out emails or whether I'd be on the field working with players, I think I would choose the latter, and the job gives me the opportunity to do so as well. So it's a good balance. Yeah.
Well, and obviously, getting to know you a little bit more, I felt like someone in your position working with the soccer association, does had involvement in soccer as a kid and played soccer throughout. So, it's nice for Saskatoon Youth Soccer and like the opportunity you got with the Saskatoon Adult Soccer, to kind of keep, go from coach and still continue on with the position internally, which is awesome. And then you get not sure if you coach both indoor and outdoor, but you get those opportunities to, to coach these young kids and to, mold young minds.
Yeah. I do coach both. And I mean, it's funny when you talk about the coaching journey, as a player, you think, oh yeah, it's easy. Like these guys just, they tell us when to go on the field and then take us off, but there's so much to it, right? Like there's so much education behind it. And a big hats off to both Canada Soccer and Saskatchewan Soccer too for pushing coach education in the province and the country as a whole. I think with the 2026 World Cup and just having standards in place for clubs and stuff like that to grow and continue on their path to excellence is great. It's fantastic to see, right? So,
well, and with you having so much experience, obviously, you jumping into that coaching role wasn't a big move for you because you play the game, you coach the game that you love. And, my next question is, what kind of coach are you? Are you more of I'm a defensive coach or an offensive coach where, you like your team or just a balance of both?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was always, as a player, I was always very, I was never very tactically minded, right? I was more so just put my body on the line, very physical, not in terms of I wasn't a big guy, but, I would take the hits on the field and draw the fouls and stuff like that. But, as you move into coaching, you have to become very tactically focused. And so, on my coach journey starting a few years back, that's been a huge learning curve for me, but it's been an amazing one. So in answer to your question, I would say it's a bit of both. I think with the style of play that there is right now, being a little bit defensive sometimes doesn't sit very well if you're on a there's a high pressing team, right? Because if you sit defensively, they're always just going to be constantly pushing you back. So I think it's adapting to your opponent, the team that you're playing against. And I mean, to me, I love watching offensive soccer too. So when it's a 1-0 sort of battle, they're not great games to watch for the most part.
I feel with soccer sometimes that's where like most of the games end, or 0-0 or 1-0 or 2-1, stuff like that. But kind of on that note, getting to know you and your playing and your coaching style, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk COVID just for the last about 6.5 minutes of the show. So stay tuned for some of that. And we're also going to talk to Dan about their plan for hopefully this upcoming season with their return to play plan. So stay tuned. And we're back here on the Sask Sports Show with my guest, Dan Kelly. So before the break, we kind of, the word COVID came up. So to finish off the show, everybody's favorite topic that I think we've learned words like pandemic and, perseverance and variant and, COVID-19 coronavirus, and words that have been put into the dictionary from as many times as they've been used, COVID-19. But I just wanted to finish the show just talking briefly about, first off, what the struggles were that, or if there were any struggles that Saskatoon Youth Soccer faced when COVID hit last March that basically shut the whole world down. So about a year ago now.
Yeah. So, well, look, I'm talking to you from a closet in my house, right? So it speaks to where we're at in the COVID process, right?
Yeah.
But no, as I mentioned before, myself and my coworkers, we've been very lucky to maintain our jobs throughout this entire period where so many people haven't, and I got to say it again, I'm very grateful to my boss and the board and everybody who's kind of put the foot forward for us. But we were lucky enough to have just really completed our indoor season last year prior to the pandemic, before the shutdown, I should say. I mean, I think the pandemic was starting to gain some speed around that time, but what it did really impact was, how we could move forward with our outdoor season, which I think it didn't end up happening. What we ended up doing last year was having, sort of having the clubs run their own sort of training and stuff, but that wasn't able to be really opened until July. So, and I think within the year we've learned so much that hindsight's 2020, but we're still covering new ground. And as you mentioned, the variants are going to play a big role in what we can offer this year. But I do need to send a shout out again to the governing organizations, Sask Soccer and Canada Soccer. I mean, they had a return to play protocol in place and plan for the provinces, and we had to come up with our own too, right, for both the outdoor and the indoor season, just with the new sort of guidelines and things that we could and couldn't do, right? So it's been a challenge. We come up with a plan and then 4 contingency plans, and none of those fit the mold, so we're back to the drawing board in every scenario, right? So I think we're very much hopeful that this outdoor season, going back into an outdoor setting, will get a full league with what we had seen in the past. But again, with kind of what's happening in Regina right now with the variants and the concerns there and the shutdown, it's very much touch and go. And I think we have to play day by day with it as well.
Well, and I feel like kids are getting to that point now where we're starting to get some nice days consecutively, and obviously they missed, they got to play a little bit maybe for their outdoor season, and then it got shut down. And then for the indoor, there was I think we talked about this yesterday, how there was a little bit of an indoor season in November,
Yeah.
and that didn't really go as planned either. I think these kids are really starting to, get itching to play. They just want to get back onto the pitch and, play with their play soccer with their friends and just play the game that they love and get some exercise. I imagine all these kids are just getting sick and tired of getting cooped up in their house doing school from online and stuff like that. So hopefully we can get something going and the government allows sports to come back this summer.
Yeah, it's very true. And you touched on something there, and just in the coach experience, like we step onto a field, and I think every day since the shutdown in November, it's, we're getting questions like, when are we going to play games? When are we going to play a game? Right. And they can't even really do that internally because of the social distancing guideline. So it's been tough. I mean, and in terms of coaching, we're coaching things and running sessions very much against what they've kind of line drills and stuff like that, right? A lot of the philosophy for coaching right now is teaching the game in the game. So it's a big it'll be big once we get back to playing some iteration of games and just giving the kids a break that way. Yeah.
Well, that's let's hope. I'm really looking forward to this spring. just to see sports being back, and then hopefully in the fall we get back to a little bit of normalcy where sports are continuing and playing full seasons and whatnot. But that kind of wraps up the show for tonight, Dan. I really appreciate you coming on the show and just kind of spotlighting Saskatoon Youth Soccer and just letting everybody know what the association and what Saskatoon Youth Soccer is all about. And I have one last question for you that I just thought of that I forgot to ask you earlier. But for once sports are back, and even probably before sports are back, if some kids want to get involved after watching this interview and they want to get involved and be a part of youth soccer and register, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, they can check out our website, which is saskatoonyouthsoccer.ca. We have a lot of information in terms of registration. We have a lot of the community association websites and the club websites within the city. So that's a good start. We do have our social media platforms as well, and we're accessible through that. So you can search us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think we have the gambit there, right? And yeah, a lot of us there is somebody in the office. So the number, if they have any questions, 306-975-3413, I believe is the number. So yeah. And again, the more we have in the sport, the better. So even if you just come out and kick around for once a week or whatnot, everybody is welcome, and we'd love to see more faces in the game.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's I'm very, like I said, very happy for you to jump on the show, Dan, and get to know you and Saskatoon Youth Soccer as a whole as well. So I felt that now after this interview, everybody knows a little bit more, about soccer in Saskatoon.
Yeah, and thank you very much for having me and highlighting not only Saskatoon Youth Soccer but the sport of soccer in Saskatchewan. It's very, very much appreciated. So thank you again. Oh,
you're very welcome. And it was fun, and it was great to learn a little bit more about soccer, because obviously, as you can tell, I'm more of a hockey guy. Played soccer when I was like 5, and then never played it again. That's tennis soccer. So
yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough.
But
it shows like this that highlight it, which get more people into the game. So yeah, no, it's great.
Well, that concludes another episode of the Sask Sports Show here on ASTV. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this, and like I said, thanks to Dan for jumping on tonight and highlighting Saskatoon Youth Soccer. And if you missed an episode of the Sask Sports Show, you can catch any episode on astvproductions.com and on ASTV's Facebook page. The show airs every Thursday night at 4 p.m. Saskatchewan time. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed the show tonight, and I will see you next week. So have a good night.